Hi there. Welcome to part 3 of the week 3 learning guide for college algebra. We've been working through a lot of good examples for this week, and I hope it's kind of all coming together for you. That's really my goal. And so, just a couple of reminders, this video will only cover the examples on this page of the learning guide. I will link the next video down in the description so that you have all the videos for week 3. Also, I'll put a link for the hard copy or the file of the learning guide. So if you want to print it and be able to write your notes out, which I think is so valuable, you can do that as well. And finally, be sure to like and subscribe. That way you get a notification every time a new video is posted that can help you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This video is going to focus on exponents and radical equations. And I've given us a couple of examples, but I want to jump into the examples we're going to work um, before we kind of look at those notes there. So look at problem number 1. We have the fourth root of x squared y cubed all to the fourth. Now, something you have to recognize is that the fourth power and the fourth root, those cancel out. In the same way, if we had a square root and a square, they would cancel out as well. So this problem actually very simply just becomes x squared y cubed. The fourth root and the fourth power cancel out. Now, we use that same concept when we go to problem number 2 because we're solving. So the eighth root, man, that's hard to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to remove it. And the way to remove the eighth root is to take it to the eighth power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the both sides of the equation here to the eighth power, like that, because I know the eighth root and the eighth power cancel each other out. So I'm just left with what's underneath that radical. Now, -1 to the eighth power. I want you to think about 8 negative ones in a row being multiplied together. Well, -1 times -1 is +1. So anytime I have a pair, I get +1. Well, if I have 8 of them there, I've got 4 pairs. So I'm going to get +1. Now I need to solve. So let me bring the 1 over by subtracting. And now I have a quadratic. Now this quadratic, I would love to be able to factor. Sadly, I cannot because it doesn't factor. So we're going to have to go to the quadratic formula. I need to recognize that A is 2, B is 3, and C is -1. So we're going to be putting those in the quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You'll want to have that in your notes. Very important. It's one we use a lot. Okay. I've already identified the values for a, b, and c. You can see where I got them in this quadratic. So I'm going to plug them in. All right. -b would be -3 plus or minus 3 squared minus 4 times 2, so 4 times 2 is 8, times c, 8 times -1 is -8, all divided by 2 times a, which is 4. So we get -3 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 4. And those are our solutions. Now you can put this in your calculator. You could do -3 plus the square root of 17 divided by 4, get one answer. Then you can do -3 minus square root of 17 and divided by 4 and get the second answer. Both of those would be solutions. All right, let's take a look at number 3 then. Now, we have done some factoring before, but we've never done it with an x to the fourth. So something that is often taught is to use what I would call a dummy variable. So I'm going to let k equal x squared. Let me show you how I rewrite this then. If k is x squared, then this equation becomes k squared because x squared squared is x to the fourth plus 10k plus 9. Now it becomes something that we have factored before. So we're going to write this in two parentheses by factoring. I've got a k, and I ask myself what two numbers multiply to give me 9, but add to give me 10. What two numbers multiply to give me 9, but add to give me 10. That has to be 9 and 1. So now I will set these two equal to each to 0. K plus 9 is 0. K plus 1 is 0. And I solve. K equals -9. K equals -1. But this problem wasn't asking me to solve for k, it was asking me to solve for x. So I have to sub it back in. Now I have x squared equals -9. X squared equals -1. So now I have to take the square root of both sides. So I get that x equals positive square root of 9, x equals negative square root of -9. X equals positive square root of -1, and x equals negative square root of -1. Think about your imaginary numbers. We did that in the last video. So remember, you're going to rewrite this as the square root of -1 times the square root of 9. That's going to give you 3i because the square root of -1 is I. Okay, so that means for this one, you're going to get -3i. For this one, you'll get just I. And for the last one, you'll get -I. I know that sounds very different from what you've done in the past, and that's okay. We just need to continue going with that idea of separating it into two square roots so you can clearly see the I there. All right, last problem for this part of the learning guide. We're going to start with what we can do here with the factoring. So I'm going to move that 28 over by subtracting it. And now I'm looking for two parentheses. I've got k and k. I'm asking myself what two numbers multiply to give me -28, but add to give me -3. That would have to be -7 and +4. Now set those each equal to 0. So k is 7 and k is -4. Now remember, this problem's not asking for what is k. This problem is asking for what is x. I'm going to pull in a little bit of space for us here to finish up because we need to find out what x is. So since I know k is +7 and -4, I'm going to find, using this equation, I'll find out what x is. So let's say we have 7. We'll start with 7 first. And now we're going to solve. So I will make this over 1 so I can cross multiply. That'll give me 7 times x minus 2 equals x plus 2. Go ahead and distribute here to give you 7x minus 14 equals x plus 2. Now, you saw in my previous video, we moved all the x's to one side, we moved all the numbers to the other side. So let's subtract x. Notice I lined it up underneath the 7x, and let's add 14. That gives me 6x. My 14's cancel. My x's cancel, and that gives me 16. Now we can divide by 6, and I get 16/6 or 8/3. But this is just one solution for x. Remember, we also found that k could be -4. So let's do the same with -4. I've got -4 equals x plus 2 over x minus 2. We'll put it over 1. Cross multiply again. and then distribute. You can see we're solving this one the exact same way we did the other one. Now let's move all our x's to one side by subtracting the x. We'll move all the numbers to the other side by subtracting 8. That gives me negative 5x. My 8's cancel. My x's cancel, equals negative 6. So x equals 6/5. I divided by negative 5 there on both of those. So you can see we actually had to solve like 3 equations, right? We had to solve this one, then we had to solve this one, then we had to solve this one. And our final answer are x equals 8/3 and x equals 6/5. So I hope that helps with this part of the week 3 learning guide. You are making great progress. Keep at it. Keep working through the examples so that you know what to do on each one of them. If I can help in any way, please leave me a comment below. I'd love the opportunity to create another video or show some more examples of a particular topic that maybe help you. That's what I'm here for. The biggest thank you that you can give me is to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll keep showing up and doing some examples to help you. So thanks so much. Bye for now.